Welcome to another Youth Soccer Coaches webinar hosted by me, Craig Scott. We are very pleased that we've managed to get Tomasa Gronnemarka to discuss how to win a soccer match with a throw-in. We will introduce him a little bit more in a second. So we encourage questions through the chat function, so they can be sent to me privately or generally in the chat, so it's fine. And we will ask the questions at the end. Please ensure mics are off to remove background noise. And we also ask that if Thomas decides to play a video, that the cameras can be switched off, just so the video has a more of a chance of playing in sync. So today, this webinar is also live on our Facebook page at Youth Soccer Coaches. You can also find us at Twitter at Youth Soccer Coaches and on our website, www.youthsoccercoach.com. We're just going to quickly jump to next week. So next week, we have Don Williams, Head of Operations for America for Sports Recruiting USA. And he's coached college and pro for 22 years. I will put the link to sign up in the chat shortly. Today, guest Thomas is a freelance throwing coach for professional clubs such as Liverpool and Ajax, work with professional managers such as Jurgen Klopp in the top end of the professional game. I will now hand over to Thomas.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Today
you have to share your screen, Thomas. Sorry, just so you know.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes. Today I'm going to make a little talk here about how to win a match with a throw-in. The talk is going to be approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and then afterwards it's possible to ask some questions. And generally you can ask me about anything you want. Of course, there are either some personal things I can't reveal, or some of my secrets I can't reveal, but I'll do my best to give you a lot of value here. But to start from the very start, back in the mid-80s, I was 10 years old, and it's me sitting on the left looking like Boris Becker from the old days. And I was a football player, and I was pretty good. I'm sitting there with my friend Michael here. And yeah, I got to play in the best Danish U19 league. I also played against good players like, perhaps some of you know, Thomas Gronnemarka, who later played for Celtic and Real Madrid. But I wasn't good enough to be a professional football player. So in the mid-90s, I changed to athletics. And already the first year I came on the Danish national athletics team. And I was running 100, 200, 400 meters and relays. And yeah, I was on the Danish national team all 6 years I did that sport. And the highlight was, like you see here in the picture, from year 2000, where I, together with my teammates from Aarhus 1900 from Denmark, became European champion in the 4x400 meter relay for club teams. It's me standing second from the left, and I ran the last leg there, so it was really good. But in 2002, I changed sport, not because I wasn't successful in athletics, but I really missed that team sport from football. So in 2002, I changed to the Danish bobsleigh team. And it's me here standing second from the right. And I had 4 years on the Danish bobsleigh team, and it was a fantastic 4 years. We are standing here in St. Moritz in Switzerland. And yeah, we were traveling all around the world, whole Europe and States and Canada and so. And it was actually in the middle of that bobsleigh period in 2004 where I thought, hey, if I can make a good throw in myself, because that was one of my strengths when I played football, can't I teach other players to make a good throw in? So after that bobsleigh trip in 2004, January 2004, I went down to my local library because I wanted to find that book about throw-ins. But there were no books at all. And yeah, I also searched the internet, but yeah, there was nothing serious there. So in January 2004, I decided to make my own throwing course, and I used approximately 6 months to develop a throwing course, and that was ready in October 2004. I could have been starting with a youth or amateur team, but I had the courage to ask a Superliga team in Denmark, a local Superliga team called Viborg. And luckily enough, they said yes. And I started working at their club, and the players improved their throw-ins a lot. They scored a lot of goals after throw-in situations. So since October 2004, I've been a throwing coach, coaching not only professional teams, but also a lot of youth and amateur teams, both boys and girls, women and men. So that's my job now. I'm also doing a lot of talks for companies around the world. So even though it's mostly throw-ins now, I'm also doing other things sometimes. Back in 2008, I've been a throwing coach for 4 years, and I decided it could be pretty cool to have the longest throw-in in the world. So I decided to try to beat the world record, world longest throw-in. I did it with a flip throw-in, and it's really hard for me because I was a non-gymnast. But after 3 years of training and record attempts in the national match between Denmark and Spain in 2008, and also in the match Hertha Berlin-Wolfsburg in 2009 on the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, I set an official Guinness World Record of 51.33 meters. And you can see that on my YouTube channel here after this event. But my big breakthrough came in 2018, where Jürgen Klopp, he called me on the phone and asked me for help to Liverpool's throw-ins. Liverpool were really bad at the throw-ins at that time, so that was my really first international breakthrough. You can say that. Up to that, I mostly coached Danish professional teams in the Danish Superliga. Since the breakthrough with Liverpool, I've been coaching a lot of clubs. For example, Ajax, Atlanta United from MLS, RB Leipzig, again from Belgium, and then also this is just you're the first ones to hear it because it goes out on the social media. But I actually also this season helped Flamengo from Brazil, and we were Brazilian champions. So that was a great feeling. What is this throw-in coaching, and what can it give? Of course, I have a lot of data, I have a lot of numbers myself, but for me, it's really hard to show my own numbers because, they're often like secret because of the contracts, and so you can't share everything, even though you have it. But in September 2019, there was a video from Tifo Football, and you can see that on YouTube too, where they looked at throw-ins under pressure in the different European leagues. And they found out that in the 2017-18 season, before I came to Liverpool, Liverpool, they had a great season with the 4th place in the Premier League and a Champions League final, even though they lost to Madrid. But they were really bad at the throw-ins. So at this Tifo Football, they look at throw-ins under pressure, where the players are marked, and they found out that in the 2017-18 season, Liverpool had a possession on 45.4% at throw-ins under pressure, and they were only number 18 in the Premier League, so third last. But in my first season, the 18-19 season, we improved to a possession on 68.4% on throw-ins under pressure, and went to number 1 in the Premier League on this statistics. We also went to number 2 in the whole Europe, just after one of my other teams, FC Midtjylland. But it's not only about possession at throw-ins under pressure, because of course that's really important. There are normally 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match, and most teams have under 50% possession when have a throw-in under pressure. But you can also score goals after throw-in situations. I'll just say before I show this statistic with Liverpool, we are not doing any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal, but this is throw-ins from all around the pitch, also our own penalty area and the middle zone and so. But last season, the 2019-20 season, we scored 14 goals on throw-ins all around the pitch, and it looks like the statistic will be approximately the same this season too. So you can score a lot of goals, after normal throw-in situations. But again, I'm coaching after a philosophy called the long, the fast, and the clever throw-in philosophy. And here I'm going like shortly to talk about the different parts of my philosophy. First of all, the long throw-in. With the long throw-in, I'm focusing on the throw-in technique, and I'm helping the players to throw longer just with having a better technique. Most of my players I'm coaching, they're improving between 5 and 10 meters, and it's only with technique, and some up to 15 meters. The next video I'm showing you, and I hope that you can see it, but the next video I show you, it's from a guy called Gronnemarka who improves his throwing from 25 meters to 40 meters. And let's see if the video works here. And
what did I do?
Let's see. Okay, I'll just try to push it again.
Take care.
Okay. It's giving a little challenge here. I'll just, okay, it comes here, I think. Yep. Yes, and I don't know if you could see it or if it was frozen. But again, remember that Sargon here, he wasn't especially good at throw-ins before he started. But I just wanted to give you some numbers, because long throw-ins, that's not only for teams who want to make long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal. It's important for all teams. I'm also doing long throwing coaching in Liverpool, even though we're not doing any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal, also in teams like Ajax and my other teams, because the longer throw-in you have, the greater throwing area you'll have too. So imagine you have a throw-in in the middle of the pitch. If you're throwing short, you can only throw in a small half circle. If you're throwing longer, the half circle is bigger. So I have some numbers here. For example, Kian Hansen from FC Midtjylland in Denmark, he started with 30 meters and 70 before this technical training. And it was a really high throw-in. He had a throw-in area of 1,480 square meters, but he improved his throw-in to 36 meters and 70. And it was like fast like a rocket, and improved his throwing area to 2,115. Kian Hansen, he assisted 34 goals on long throw-ins for FC Midtjylland over 4 seasons, so almost 9 per season. We have had a couple of guys more. You can see that was players who were not so good from the start, Mungsgaard and Master, and they improved their, you can see here, almost 9 meters and 12 meters and 25. And they were also from FC Midtjylland. And actually, in the first time FC Midtjylland was Danish champion, Master, he made the decisive long throwing goal when they won 1-0 in the final game and became champion. So it's always good to have a lot of players who can make the long throw-in. Then we have a young guy, Andreas Paulsen, who was sold to Borussia Mönchengladbach as 18-year-old. He improved from 24.25 to 37.90. So that's almost 14 meters, but also look at the square meter improvement. He's a fullback, so it's really important that you have a greater throwing area as a fullback, no matter if you're using the long throwing as a set-piece weapon. Then we have a couple of guys from AC Horsens in Denmark. They started very high. For example, Mikkel Kvist, 35.50. He improved to almost 40 meters. This guy assisted 10 goals on long throw-ins this season. I coached them. we have Mads Beck, and he's actually now playing in Brentford in the championship in England. I've both been coaching Mads in AC Horsens in Denmark, but also Brentford. And he's the guy with the longest throwing I've had in my entire career. So he's really talented. The last example here, Andy Robertson from Liverpool, he could only throw 19 meters and 80, and that's very short. And it meant that every time Liverpool had a throw in the left side, it was really easy for the opponent to put on pressure on Liverpool and take the ball. So even though Andy Robertson will never be the best in the world if you're looking at the length, he improves his throwing area with more than 500 square meters. And he's also, and I'm coming into that in the fast and clever throwing, but he's also developed like precision, ability to throw faster, patience, see space, and things like that. So Andy Robertson have developed from a really bad thrower, not only with the length, but also in general, to be perhaps one of the best throwers all in the world. So it's important to improve the player's long throwing, no matter what kind of playing style you have. Going back to it all, you can say that the longer, the faster, and the flatter the throwing, the more dangerous it is, the greater chance of scoring. And I'm saying if it's under 28 meters in a test where it lands on the ground, it would not go longer than the small box in the air. If you can throw from 28 to 34 meters, then it's like if it's 34 meters, that's first post in the air. And then if it's more than 34 meters, I call it world class. And let's just take Joe Gomez from Liverpool through 37.90. We saw that Kian Hansen from Midtjylland, Mads Beck, Mikkel Quist. So they are all like world-class throwers who can throw to the penalty spot in the air. And when it becomes that far, it's really, really dangerous. You can also say, as I said before, the longer throwing, the greater throwing area, that's really important, especially for fullbacks all around the pitch. And yeah, so the long throwing is important no matter who you are. Then we have the fast throwing, and the fast throwing is also a really important part on the pitch. First of all, as you can read in the first line, fast throwing equals less marking of players or loss of possession. And that might sound a little bit special here, because on one hand, you can say that if you throw it fast, then there's a better chance of keeping it because the opponents can't organize, they don't have time to organize. But you can also say that if you're throwing it fast and then throwing into a pressure zone, it's also really bad. Some people think, oh, it's just good to throw fast all the time. No, sometimes it's the worst thing you can do. So what I'm teaching the players is to learn with my drills when to throw fast, take good decisions, and when to wait and have patience. But the fast throwing is really important. Fast throwing, that's also when the opponents have a throw-in. So fast throwing is about faster marking, and our organization gives more pressure on opponents. So it's just as important to take the ball from the opponents when they have a throw-in. So it's not only about individual marking, zonal marking, pressure zones, pressure signs, but it's also about communication, organization, know what to do. So that's also part of the fast throw-in. And then in the end, fast throw-ins, as you can see on the picture here, it can also give counter-attack opportunities. Of course, not in every situation. But often when you have a throw-in, if you take it fast and there's a space in the back room, you can really utilize that. So you can have a counter-attack situation, and that can be really dangerous. Of course, again, it's not happening every time, and you can also say you cannot always just run into free space. Sometimes you have to run on the blind side or the striker has to run on the blind side of the central defender. So there's a lot of things to learn there for the players. Then we have the clever throw-in, and again, as you can see on the picture here, that the greater throwing area you have, the more players you can throw to. So that little thing, it just gives you a big advantage, but that's just a small thing around the clever throwing. First of all, you can say that, yeah, I just mentioned there, longer throwing, greater throwing area, but you can also say that the more movements plus specific throwing tools you can use, the more space you can create too. And if I have to cap my throwing coaching into Two things. Then first of all, it's all about creating space all around the pitch whenever throwing, no matter where it is. Also, opposite when the opponent have a throw-in. And then the other thing is that I'm coaching the players to be more throw-in intelligent, so see the best solutions. And then the last thing around the clever throw-in is the 3 tactical zones. I'm having approximately 50 zone-specific throw-in tools all around the pitch. And before anyone here thinks that, oh, it's a little bit like American football with a playbook, no, it's not that. It's just like 50 basic throw-in tools. And then the opponents are working with their own fantasy, imagination. There are a lot of different solutions. So I'm learning the players to read the situation. So they're just knowing the basics. So in theory, my teams have millions of options. So for me, that's much more dangerous than a playbook in American football. Then how do I train in the clubs? First of all, I'm starting with an inspirational visit in a club. And that'll normally be 1 to 2 training session of 30 to 60 minutes. And if you're curious, you can say that's my first training in Liverpool FC in July 2018. I'm standing on the left with Jurgen Klopp besides me. I'm always saying inspirational visit first. If it's in Europe, I normally do 1 or 2 training sessions. If it's overseas, for example, like in the States or in Asia, I'll normally do 3 or 4 sessions in the inspirational visit. And that's because of the time I have to use to travel and get used to jet lag and so. And I'll say in most of the clubs I visit, I'm signing contracts for the season. And in some clubs, I'm in many seasons. For example, in Liverpool FC, that's my 3rd season. And again, I'm normally having 3 to 5 visits per season in a club. So, and every visit consists of 2 to 3 training days. When I'm coaching, it's in the clubs, it's a combination of training on the pitch, talks, and then analysis. And I'm always coaching on the pitch or training on the pitch. It's a little bit from time to time. How many talks do I do? It's not every time I do a talk, but often in the start. And then analysis, again, that's also depending on what kind of contract I'm doing. For example, the last 3 seasons, I've been analyzing all the games in Liverpool with all the throw-ins, and then I've been receiving the attacking, defending throw-ins, and then I'm sending a throw-in analysis back to Jurgen Klopp and all the other coaches. In other teams, I've just not been analyzing all the games, but for example, before each visit, then I'm perhaps analyzing 1 or 2 games, and then I'm doing a little talk when I come there. So the amount of analysis is also different from club to club. Then content and order of training. And I think that's where a lot of teams and clubs and coaches, in my perspective, is doing things wrong. What I'm always doing is I'm always starting with the throw-in basics. Because when I'm talking with coaches and the players, I'm asking them, have you been doing throw-in coaching before? And they're saying, no, they haven't done anything at all and only a little bit. And if I'm talking with the coaches, they say that they expect that the players have done it in the academy as a youth player. And when I'm talking with the youth coaches or academy coaches, they say, oh, they expect that they learned that as kids. But no matter if I'm seeing Bundesliga, MLS, Premier League, Champions League, the lack of throwing skills are so low. So you can't expect professional players, and of course not amateur and youth players, to be good at throw-ins if they haven't trained it. So I'm always starting with trying to improve the player's throw-in length, and that's like normally 5 to 10 meters, sometimes up to 15 meters, working with basic precision, and that might sound a little bit special. But the amount of possession lost because a ball or throw-in who had to go to the feet is going to the hip, to the chest, or to the head. Instead, that's just like shocking. So often the possession is lost just because the throw-in is unprecise, or the return pass or the second or third pass is unprecise, just because of the initial unprecision there. So I'm also working a lot with precision. Then I'm also working with basic space creation for the players, because the players are not used to move when they have a throw in. They are normally either not moving or they're only moving a little bit. Sometimes I also see some movement, but it's often only individual movement. What I want and what I'm coaching the players is team movement, because we want to create space. We want to track the opponents when they have a throw in. So I'm also doing that in the start. And then I'm also working with fast reaction and marking, and not only in on an individual basis, but also in a team basis, because if you're, let's just say your 4 or 5 players defending the situation around the thrower, if it's only 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 who does it, there's like a big hole in your defense. And also the other way around, if you have a throw in and one player is just standing there and sleeping, it's not good. So that's also the reason why I'm coaching all the players. I'm not only coaching the throwers, I'm coaching all the players on the pitch. And that's really important if you want to improve the throw-ins. And before some of people think that it's perhaps boring just to coach the throw-ins. No, because I'm perhaps only using 5 or 10% of the time on throw-in technique. Like 90% or even more it's all about space creation, playing. So I'm also including a lot of movements, a lot of passing, a lot of goal scoring on small goals. Sometimes it's smaller, 3 versus 3 plus a thrower. Exercise. Sometimes it's 5 versus 5 interval games on big goals with throw-ins in every situation. It could also be 11 versus 11. We're taking specific zones from time to time. So I'm coaching all the players in also in entertaining and ways. So the players aren't bored, but they're motivated to improve all the time. But that's just like the throw-in basics. After the throw-in basics, I'm working with specific space creation tools with the throw-ins, what I'm calling clever throw-in tools. And then in the end, I'm working with the 3 tactical throw-in zones, so specific solutions for each of the zones on the pitch. And I think I touched it a little bit before, but if you're starting with like the complex things, like trying to learn your players how to run very specifically, I think you will lose a lot, because first of all, it'll be too easy to cover when your playbook is read with your 1, 2, or 3 solutions. And the second thing is it's a big risk of your players are failing because they haven't got the throw-in basics. So I'll recommend every coach to start with the basics, then put on a little bit more complex, and then end up with the most complex stuff in the end. Of course, perhaps some of you know that of course I'm working for Liverpool FC, many other clubs. I've been working for 6 to 8 different professional clubs around the world the last 3 seasons, different clubs. So it's not only Liverpool. It's been fantastic to win the Champions League with Liverpool, win the Premier League with Liverpool, Dutch Championship with Ajax, and so on and so on. Danish Championship twice with FC Midtjylland. But the most important thing for me is actually to change football so we have much better throw-ins, not only in professional football perhaps, but also amateur and youth football too. It's just as important. That's also the reason why I'm giving away my 4 best basic throw-in drills. I'm doing that. You can use that from U10 and then up to professional teams. You can see here I'm doing one of the drills with Liverpool FC here. You can get the drills on after this talk here on tomasgronnemark.com/free. And there's already been over 4,000 coaches from all over the world. I think it was like from 160 different countries in the world pinging these throw-in drills up, and a lot of good feedback, and people are happy to use them from young players to pro level. So yeah, you're absolutely welcome to pick them up. So that was like basically a very fast talk about my throwing coaching, my background, what I focus on. I know that there's already some questions out there. As mentioned before, I think it was Greg who said it there, that be sure to put your question down in the message box there, in the chat box, and of course I can answer almost anything you ask me. Of course, there are some personal things I can't reveal. There are also some of my secrets I won't reveal yet, at least not until I publish my book about throw-ins in the future. But yeah, now it's time for Q&A. So
thank you, Thomas.
Yep.
Thomas, that was brilliant. And I think, you know, listening to you, and you know, when you think about the Premier League and leagues like that, and you think actually games are won on fine margins sometimes, and it might just be that a throw-in that you've taught might have won Liverpool a very important point, maybe in a title race. So I just think, you know, when you think about football and you think about fine margins, I almost sit there and think, okay, so obviously you might have taught these throw-ins out to Liverpool or etc., and they've got these points maybe on a throw-in that you've taught. So you know, I think to back you up, the importance of a throw-in is quite high, right? I mean, how many throw-ins are there in a match, roughly? 50?
Yeah, there are normally between 40 and 60 throw-ins in a match. And a lot of people are saying, like, when I came, and still some people are saying, oh, throw-ins or throw-in coaching is small gains or marginal gains. No, I think they're totally wrong. Throw-ins are gigantic gains. It's only because, you know, people and clubs and teams have neglected throw-ins for like over 100 years. So actually it has a really, really big impact on the results of the game. So yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to start. There are some questions coming up. I've just got 2 or 3 that I'm destined to ask you. The first one I wanted to ask you, so when you start creating throwing routines and plans for clubs, is there any information about the team that you look to gain? So strength of players, philosophy, styles, you know, how do you work with the managers to ensure that even the throw-ins are almost identical to the way that they want to play the game of football?
Yeah, first of all, I say I like cut teams up in 2 parts. There are a few teams who really like to utilize the long throw-in as a set-piece weapon, and that's fine for me because it's up to the team if they want to utilize that. But I think it's only like 5 or 10% of all teams who want to really utilize that. And of course, then my coaching in that team is those teams a little bit different. So, but of course, I'll also include the fast and clever throw-ins there, but there I have like more focus on the long throw-in. But in the last 90% of the team, that I'll say most of the teams, I'm focusing more on the fast and clever throw-in, even though I try to improve the player's throwing area. Then of course I'm communicating a lot with the coaches, the players, all the people around the team, looking at the playing style. So one thing is that I'm trying to develop, you know, put my knowledge and coaching into their playing style. I'm also really looking at both weaknesses from the different players, because it can be different from team to team. For example, in some teams, the central defenders are really good with their feet and can play a lot of things. Then we can do different movements. But if a team has really unsecure central defenders, or said in other words, that they are like more physical, dual-based, then there are some things we can't do. You can also say, opposite, I'm also really looking at what I call individual throw-in superpowers. So it can, for example, be some players are good with a first touch, some players are good at creating space, some players are good at running fast, some players are good at protecting the ball, so they're good, like if we try to create big boxes and so I also try to utilize that when I fit my coaching into the playing style. So I'm looking at a lot of different parameters, but of course, when I'm like doing the inspirational visit, that's like more the basics. It's first when I sign a longer contract that I go into like playing style and so. But again, I think it's like if I'm done an inspirational visit, I normally I think I sign with like 80 or 90% of all teams. So when I come to them, most teams want to sign me because they can see it works already from the start. So but again, back to your question, I really try to fit my knowledge and coaching into a team-specific playing style.
So I'm going to ask one more because I know there's other questions. I think there's someone might have asked one that I want to ask anyway. So the other one I wanted to ask was sort of about the sort of triggers. So almost, is there a way of making the players almost aware of where to use specific throw-ins on the pitch? So is there a certain, so for example, if you're trying to score, if it's late in the game, it's 1-1, and you're trying to score a goal, would you then encourage sort of longer throw-ins, fast throw-ins? It's almost fitting the types of throw-ins into the areas of the pitch and the dynamics of the game at the time, you know, so if you're winning, losing or drawing. So is there a way to try and get the players to think about how to use the throw-ins more effectively?
Yeah, you can just say that I'm doing that just by coaching them and coaching their throwing intelligence. Because if you have increased your throwing intelligence, you also know the difference between playing a really, really safe ball, safe possession, and the difference between to have a high risk but also high reward throw-in solution. And of course, if you just need one goal and you have a normal throw-in, if you're not taking the long throw-in at the opponent's penalty area, but want to take another solution, then my teams know what a high risk but also high reward solution is. And of course, instead of playing the ball all the way back to your central defenders, if there are 2 minutes left, you want to go after the high risk, high reward because you want to score a goal. So I'm learning the players that, and it's not only at the opponent's penalty area, but it's also at the middle zone, your own penalty area. What are safer possessions and what possessions can like really make you create chances or give you counterattacks, give you transition, shift the plays, and so I can say all of that. I learned that through the focus on throwing intelligence.
I'm going to go through the questions on the chat. There's a good one actually. It says, "Are you amazed when you see professionals make foul throws?"
No, not really, because first of all, I'll say foul throws there are made so few foul throws in professional football, but when it's done, it gets a lot of attention. I don't know how many foul throws have been like refereed or made in the Premier League this season. Perhaps only 10 or so, and I don't know how many throw-ins been taken. So for me, of course, it's not good to make a foul throw-in, but most of the times that's made a foul throw-in is either really easy to like make better for that player if I coach them, and it's often a foul throw-in is also it's not a foul throw in reality, it's just often because it looks weird, so that the referee just blows the whistle. So for me, foul throw-ins they're not a big challenge in at least not in professional football. I think the biggest challenge is perhaps when kids do foul throw-ins. It's often because I think the coaches haven't been taking enough time in training, and I think kids shouldn't be afraid of taking a throw-in. So if I'm talking about the small kids, of course they shouldn't do throwing coaching 3 times a week, but at least learn them to make a correct throw-in so that they're not afraid of taking it. And then when they are from U10 and up, you can easily start with precision and like basic space creation, and it's not about like different throw-in zones and complex, but the basic things with precision, space creation around the throw and things like that. You can easily learn that from U10, and so I think you should focus on that more than foul throw-ins. So yeah.
Do you work with the academies of these clubs as well?
I think many clubs I do. For example, in Liverpool, I work with both U16, U18, U23s. I also had a whole week where I educated all the coaches from U10 and up. I had a full week with both talks, theory, and all days drills on the pitch. So I think it's really good that you're working with the throw-ins in all teams in your clubs. And for example, in Ajax, I've also been working with the second team, young Ajax. They're really young, like the name says. Also I think it's called U19 and U16 too there. So not all teams, but many of the professional clubs I coach, I also go to the academies. And I've also been coaching a lot of youth teams, for example, in Denmark, where I didn't coach the pros. So all in all, you know, I'm just loving to coach young people. And if there are sitting some amateur coaches and youth coaches who will think, hey, that would be cool to have Thomas there, but we are only a small club, then I'll say I'm sometimes also invited by where 2 or 3 or 4 clubs goes together, or one city where all the clubs are inviting me. So even though it's not cheap to get me there, it's not impossible to have me to inspire you. So that's just the way it is. So my biggest dream is to improve throw-ins, no matter what level you play on.
Absolutely. How would you go about to coach basic ball handling on a throw-in? Is there a way to handle the ball to improve elevation and speed?
Well, first of all, say speed. I can't really speed and length. I can't really go so much into that. I can only say that I'm working with 30 different technical parameters. You use video analysis again. Most players are improving between 5 and 10, some up to 15 meters. When we're talking about ball handling and precision, and so I think it's more about doing a lot of precision drills that sort of players are doing it, because the challenge is in football that a lot of coaches, not only pro football, but also youth and amateur football, they're playing with kick-ins in training instead of throw-ins, because it's so, or throw-ins are so hard to handle. And so, but hey, you know, we have kick-ins throw-ins in matches. So I think one of the most important things is just to like work with precision and throw-ins in training. So again, leaning back to my free drills on tomasgronnemark.com/free. Yeah, you learn that with precision, creating space in the near end area of the thrower, active angles, and so I think you just have to start with trying to do the throw-in drills in normal football sessions.
There's a few questions left, so guys, any more questions, please fire them in the chat. There's a 2-part question here. It says, question 1, apart from working on technique, is there any physical workouts, so gym sessions, weight resistance training, that you coach plan for the players?
No, I'm not really going so much into the physical stuff there, and that's just because you can improve so much just because with the technical improvement. So it's not like I'm putting the players into the weight room. If the players are doing something, it's normally coordinated with a physical coach in the clubs, because I won't really touch that. You can say one of the things you can do if you want to improve your throw-in length and do physical things, you can use medicine balls, but it's really important that you're doing it with the right technique. And so, because if you're doing medicine ball throwing with a bad technique, it also get you injured and make your throwing worse. But you know, I have a lot of also free throwing drills also around the medicine ball throw on my YouTube channel. You're welcome to go there too. So yes, and I think there was a second part of the question too.
Yeah, so was there any flaws with the way Rory Delap used to throw? If so, what were they, and how could they have improved the dimensions of Rory Delap?
I think that he had a really good technique. Rory Delap was former javelin thrower, so I think he, as a youngster there, so I think he used his technical abilities from that sport at that time. I'll say that I've actually coached many players who have developed from either really bad throwers or really okay throwers to like the Rory Delap level. So you can actually learn it. Rory Delap didn't learn it as a football player, he learned it like before. So, but again, it's really important for me to say if all teams were like having the same tactics as Stoke, it would be really, really boring to see football. But I really love that some teams once in a while are using these long throwing tactics. And I've also been coaching some teams who have really scored as many goals as Stoke on long throw-ins. So, but again, I think the most important thing regarding the long throwing for most teams is to increase the throwing areas to have more options on the pitch. But of course, it's fascinating when you have players who can throw as good as Roy Delap could. But again, remember, you can develop that. You don't have to be born with it.
The last question in the chat, and I might have one as well. So it says, thanks so much. How would you recommend we train throw-ins? Is it separate session, and how long are the sessions? So I think generally asking.
Yeah, normally when I'm coaching in the clubs, and you also have to know that when I'm coaching in the clubs, I'm paid per day. So it of course is a little bit different with me. But normally my throw-in sessions are between 30 and 60 minutes, sometimes 75 minutes. But if you are a coach yourself, you can easily come very far with 10 or 15 minutes. And then I'll say you can easily integrate it in your normal training, because again, some people think when I'm coaching throw-ins, it's only about the technique. No, that's only like 5% of my training. Most of my training also regarding space creation, passing, defending, scoring goals in both small pitches, but also big pitches. And so you can easily integrate that in your training. It's just to know, hey, what kind of drills should we do? So it can both be like built in as a warm-up. It could be in the middle of the training, but it can also be in the end of the training, like you're playing 11 versus 11, then you're focusing on throw-ins on in different zones or so on, really high intensive. So it can go from warm-up, small groups, middle-sized groups, big groups, low intensity, middle intensity, very high intensity. So it's all about knowing what to do, and then the players won't often. Of course, you have to say it's about throw-ins and so, but often my players are not really like knowing that it's throwing drills. Of course, they know I'm there and so, but for a lot of players, I think it's just an integrated part of the training. So yes, you can actually do throwing coaching every week, and it doesn't matter if you're only coaching or training 2 times per week, because it looks a lot like normal training. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, so sort of under 12s, I have an under 12s team, under 13s team, and we actually looked at throw-ins at one part of the season, sort of early on. For some reason, we gave the ball away a lot, and we actually conceded a couple of goals from just losing the ball from a throw-in. So from what we did, we tried to sort of get a couple of sort of little almost sessions on throwing routines, but we found that actually we needed to teach the players the technique as well. So we backtracked and see how far people could throw the ball, and then the session started to gain a little bit of flow. So I think it just backs up what you say about starting with the basics actually works far better, especially with the younger ages. So if you were to go into an under 12s, 13s team and work on throw-ins, would you stick to the basics and build on it? Is what I'd ask.
Actually, like the drills there are set again. Sorry about mentioning again, but the ones on thomasgronnemark.com/free, that'll be perfect for a start. Also from U10 or U12, boys or girls, because it's easy to understand. It develops the basic both with precision, technique, return pass position, active angles, and so creating space in the near area of the throw with good distance to the throw, and so on and so on. It gives the players like a security and like a really good base to start from, and then after that you can build on other things. But that's just like the very basic. But it's also good, as you mentioned, Craig, there, that try to see who can throw the furthest, and so, because it's always like motivating for the players. Actually, I often have to stop the players throwing when when we're doing tests after the technical sessions, because I just want to throw and throw and throw. So that could be good to have a little competition, but also start with the drills are like highlighted in the link there. So I just have to say, sorry, I'm interrupting, but there was a question before where Brendan said,
it's at the top. I think I've missed it by mistake. I think it's at the top.
You take that, and then there was another one in the bottom too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're pushing the time limit a little bit. So hi Thomas, have the injuries at Liverpool had an impact on the throwing stats this season? Are you also coaching below the first team? So I think you said that you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we already got that one. So injuries, Liverpool.
Yeah. I'll just say, I think my biggest challenge in Liverpool this season has been that there are travel restrictions to UK. So for many months, I haven't been able to come into UK. So I've only been for several months, only been doing, the throw-in analysis of every game. And of course, that means a lot to the team too. But I can't come into UK, and that's a challenge, especially with new players who've been coming in. But again, still, I'll say our throwing stats looks really amazing with Liverpool. And but of course, like everyone can expect that the injuries, of course, have a little bit on impact on the throw-ins. But I think it's more like the general performance with people are playing out of position. But it looks like we're coming a little bit back on the track again, slowly. But yes, of course, it's more that I haven't been able to come to UK the last several months. But it's a little special because I've just been a week in France. I'm also coaching Toulouse in France too. So some countries I can go to, and some countries are totally closed. So it's a little bit special. Yeah.
So the last question we have is, when do you expect to publish your book, and is there any online course regarding throw-ins?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say I don't know when I'll publish my book about throw-ins. I've already been writing over 100,000 words, so really been writing a lot. But I'm also writing on another book around like innovation and so I don't know which book will come first. But when my book is published, you can be sure that there'll also be online courses and so. The only way you can be totally sure of knowing when it comes out, again, subscribe to my newsletter on my homepage, and you'll for sure get directly a message when my book is out. But again, that's the way I can really change the throw-ins in the world, because I know that it's not necessarily all clubs in the world who can invite me. So I'm looking forward to publish that book somewhere in the future.
Hopefully so. So we've come to an end. We've questioned out. So Thomas, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you, and hopefully you've helped coaches in the future to develop on their throw-ins. I just want to stress the webinar link for Don Williams on coaching, college coaching in the US is in the chat, and I would highly recommend it for next week. He's experienced in the US, and he's worked in the program, so it is in the chat. Please leave us any feedback. We are very active on Twitter at Youth Soccer Coaches, so if you could please leave us a follow, and we will kindly return the favor. And any feedback would be amazing, and I'm sure Thomas would also appreciate to see the feedback. Thomas, you're on Twitter too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm both on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube.
Find him somewhere.
I also do smoke signals, so I'm looking out of the window. So yep.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and please find us on Twitter, Facebook at Youth Soccer Coaches. Hopefully to see everybody soon. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.